Jeff Lebby has a couple of challenges to overcome at Mississippi State. One is replacing essentially Mike Leach, even though it's been a coach between them, and finding a way to get Mississippi State back on track. We take a look at the top 10 returning players for this team and how they help them in both of those missions. Now, this offense is going to look a little bit more like the Leach days, but obviously with Lebby's version of this offense, it's not going to be the air raid, but you should still expect this team to throw the ball quite a bit. And Blake Shapen's going to be the leader of that group. Now, one thing that surprised me is that Shapen went to Mississippi State, and all reports have been that he is the starter, undisputed starter right now. There's some competition, but Shapen has really stood out and has been the guy. So he's going to be really fun to watch in this offense. It's not a pairing that I expected, but it's going to be one that I definitely keep an eye on. And I think that Lebby really likes what he has in Shapen. And year one may not be the best for Mississippi State under Lebby, but it's at least going to provide some excitement with the offense that they run and shape and running it. Lebby also went to the transfer portal to get Stone Blandon from South Carolina, 52 tackles last year. Again, someone who is going to play a little bit of a bigger role with his new team at South Carolina, was part of more of a rotation, but he is someone at 6'2", 230 that can be a big time playmaker for Mississippi State. They're going to need that with the talent level that they face on a weekly basis. It's going to be difficult to win in Starkville. It's going to be difficult to win at Mississippi State. Lebby knows that, but he's still at least bringing in talent that can make life a little bit easy for them in 2024. On the back end, Cory Ellington's a big safety at 6'3", 200 pounds, someone who was solid for this group, a group that finished 34th against the pass. And Ellington's going to do a little bit of everything for this defense. 66 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 passes defended. Someone who, again, you really like what you get from him. He's someone who's going to lay it all on the line for his teammates. And someone who this was a defense that was, I think, better than a lot of people expected or better than people remember. And the fact that they brought in some talent could mean that this group, once again, is a tough group. And it could also mean that we're going to expect bigger things from him this year. An underrated transfer was getting Devon Booth from Utah State, 805 yards, 6.5 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns on the ground. Again, I think you're going to see the run game not be as much of a focal point as you might anticipate, but Booth is going to make them run the ball more than probably everyone expects. This is a group that ran the football more efficiently than they did throwing last year, but this is a staff that wants to get back to the opposite. They want to be able to throw the ball really well, but I think you have a guy in Devon Booth that's going to force you to run the football quite a bit, and you saw what Utah State got when Booth was doing his thing for the Aggies. He's going to probably do the same thing for the Bulldogs. We'll just see what he can do in terms of adapting to that elevated talent level. McKenzie Pounders kind of surprised a lot of people by transferring from Memphis to Mississippi State. The former Tiger was a solid player for the Tigers, a group that is expected to be much better, a team that's competing for a potential college football playoff berth in 2024, but he took his talents to the SEC, and I don't think anybody's going to complain when they see exactly what he's capable of doing. He is someone who can be dominant on the edge and someone that's going to make life very easy for Shapen in that passing attack. Kevin Coleman is interesting to me for Mississippi State because he comes from Louisville after transferring from Jackson State, and a lot of people, including myself, thought he would be better with the Cardinals. Now, he didn't have the biggest year statistically, but he did a little bit of everything for Louisville. 362 yards receiving, 205 return yards. I think that you're looking at a guy who can be really fun for Mississippi State. I think that he's a good weapon for Jeff Lebby in this offense. We'll see what he can do, but it's safe to say that Mississippi State's going to find ways to get him the football and find ways to get him involved, whether that's on offense, special teams. They'll find ways, and it'll be really fun to see what he can do with those opportunities. Kelly Akari comes in from UTEP, and probably the biggest question is, what are you going to be able to do coming from UTEP and Conference USA? Are you going to be able to produce at the level you did last year? This is someone who only needed 48 catches to get over 1,000 yards, averaged 21.5 yards per catch, and 7 touchdowns last year. Probably not gonna be able to do that at the SEC level, but if he can be explosive, and not to the level that he's gonna be at UTEP, but if you could find a way to be more explosive for what we saw at Mississippi State, then even a little bit more explosive is gonna make this offense better. At 6'1", 200 pounds, size is definitely not going to be a problem. You're not have to worry about durability issues there. He is someone who can handle that transition. This passing attack brings in some new playmakers. Finding chemistry with Blake Shapen is going to be a big question. We'll see what happens there, but he is definitely someone to keep an eye on in terms of explosive play. Again, the defense lost quite a bit of talent, but having certain players back should make this really fun to watch. JP Purvis is back, 39 tackles, half tackle for a loss, so not the most productive player, but I think that he's still someone that will be a big time playmaker for this group. Again, this was an underrated defense, a defense that exceeded expectations. Purvis is a leader in that group. He's been here for a while. Obviously, has to learn a new system, but there's a lot of reasons to be excited about what he brings to the table. Another guy is Deontay Anderson, someone who can, I think, after a full year of experience, could take a step forward and be even more disruptive. That's exactly what they need. And I think that Anderson is someone who is kind of slept on in the SEC just because you have so many talented players coming into this conference. And you're looking at someone who doesn't exactly have the biggest frame of some of these edge players, but he is someone who can be disruptive. And I think when you go back and watch the film, you're going to see a guy that's ready to take a step forward this year. And then finally, Trent Hudson, the New Mexico State transfer, averaged nearly 16 yards per catch, had 10 touchdowns. Someone who is going to compete with the rest of these guys for touches, for catches. And again, when you look at what Jeff Lebby wants to do, he wants to move the ball through the air, wants to move the ball on the ground as well. But the passing attack is going to look drastically different than it did last year. And hopefully fans are excited about what they are getting from the transfer portal. Again, we'll see what happens. Chemistry is going to be a big question right now. What is this offense going to look like? Is it going to have balance? Are they going to struggle with new faces coming into campus? You have guys with good frames. Hudson's another one at 6'3", 180. But it might take a little while for Levy and this team to get back on track, to find ways to be difficult to beat. But at least in the transfer portal, they've done a good job. They have a couple of key returning players that will be really fun to watch. It's just going to be a matter of what their ceiling looks like and how difficult they're going to be to beat in 2024.